Hello. We all made it. This is a miracle.
Hey,
How are you, Kevin?
I'm good. I'm good, Nikki. How are y'all?
I'm fine, thank you. I do apologize for being AWOL for a couple of weeks. Hi, Sankshan. Hi, Martina.
Hi
Hello, Nikki.
everyone.
So I'm just going to get the meeting up on our screens and we can step through it in the normal way. Put in edit mode. There we go. So this is the one. Let me put who's here. Okay, so should we get started? Close some of these down. So, antitrust notice. I think all of us are already members of Trust over IP or DIF, so the usual stuff there. No new members. So in the call, we'll do general announcements and then we're really focusing on this deliverables piece, um, which I was hoping you'd be able to lead, Sankshan, because I think you've done quite a lot of work on this already. Would that be okay?
Okay, yeah, sure.
Thank you. So this agenda I actually put together for last week, so it might be incorrect, but is there anything else anyone would like to raise in the call? Add, change on the agenda? Okay, great. So, for the record, unfortunately, Scott has had to step back from the group due to other work commitments. Um, so we'll just continue and it's kind of in the mix with the co-chairs of the main group in any case, myself and Martina and Drummond. I have got one other thing that we need to add actually, which is potentially the cadence and timing of the group. So I can move that up here. Okay. Um, so I think obviously it's really late for you, isn't it, Sankarshan? It's very late in your day,
Um, no,
early and
it's
dry.
not too late. It's 8:30 in the evening, so it's still manageable.
It's a manageable time, but
Oh
any
yeah.
later, um, whereabouts in the world are you, Kevin?
I'm in Central Texas. Yeah,
So
about
it's
9 o'clock.
9 o'clock, so that's reasonable. So it's Drummond who's feeling the pain on this. So I think Sankarshan, you had a proposal about not having a separate call for this, but just ensuring we had a sort of a 10-minute slot in the main working group call.
Yeah, kind of. Uh, Given that at this point we don't have uh a full deck of things to do, we might not need an entire call to ourselves. That's what I'm thinking.
Okay. What does everyone else in the group think about that? Or do we make it, say, every fortnight instead of every week, just to get these deliverables out the door and then take a kind of sense check at that point?
That's fine by me too. We could do that. Let's try that to begin with. Let's do
Yeah,
it every
so
alternate.
we'll make it bi-weekly, accepting that Drummond won't be able to make it on most days. Um, make it bi-weekly until deliverables.
But if you want to include Drummond in these calls, you want to push it further into the day, right?
Well, there are two alternatives, I suppose. We could make it late at night for Martina and myself, and earlier in and no, let me get this right. So if you're arranging calls between APAC and West Coast, they're very early in the morning for us.
Yeah. Look, I'm at a very weird time zone, so I don't think I should be a deciding factor in how if you want to push it the call, let's say by 60 or 90 more minutes further into the day, that's fine. I'll try and make it at least for 30 minutes into the call.
How would that work for you, Martina and Kevin?
For me on Tuesdays, an hour later is a bit challenging. But I have been, I guess, the least involved in the group so far. So I just try to make it whenever I can. But I don't think I should be, the one that you circle around in this case.
Everyone's so
Yeah,
modest, yeah.
yeah. I'm the same. I'm in the same boat. In fact, I would challenge you. I'm the least active.
Well, I don't think,
Let's
to be
figure that out
fair,
afterwards.
I
Yeah,
think I think the only active person has been Sankarshan in the last 6 weeks or so. So then review, move to 60 mins later.
What about 30? Is this like weird for the entire trust over IP schedule thingy? Because it starts at exactly on the hour.
Well, as far as I understand, we can put it whenever we want to.
I mean, yeah, I don't know about Drummond, but would this maybe be a compromise, or
Well,
would
just put
that
it
even
30
make,
minutes later instead
yeah,
of.
or
I
would
think
this
that
maybe
the
even
issue
make
is
things
he's
more
not.
complicated?
Yeah, my understanding is Drummond's a night owl. He he works pretty late at night, and therefore, anything south of 8 in the morning. But let's try that. Let's move it half an hour and see how we get on. Move to 30 minutes later for West Coast Comforts. So that's action, Nikki. Okay, I'll stop sharing. Sankarshan, do you want to share screens and just summarize where you've got to and what you think what you're recommending we now do? Uh, uh,
So two things. I have a bit of a challenge sharing screen because I'm not on a desktop, but I don't think we need screen sharing at least. I'll give everyone here quick run through of what's been happening so far, and then we can decide how we want to go. So when we started this task force, I think Scott had asked us to use the content that you had built up, Nikki, to try and get a sense of a risk assessment matrix built out. And while I didn't initially follow the template that Scott had, there is a risk register, or basically it's a register of risks that come about uh, that I had shared on the Discord channel, as well as tried to fit it into Scott's template, which I couldn't quite get it done. But there is a small set of enumerated risks that now exist, and we can decide what we want to do with it, whether that's going to be a primary focus of work. So that's one part of it. The second thing that happened almost simultaneously is that the specification group posted out two things. One was the spec, which is about the 0.3, I believe, version draft of it. And there was the bootstrapping of a trust community document that was shared by Drummond. So, in the spirit of being able to engage in discussions with the main group, I had updated my responses on the GitHub page about uh, how the current shape and form of the text could create risks and how those risks could come about. So, sort of like adding a very rudimentary playbook of how those particular risks can come about. And so that exists on the GitHub discussion at this point in time. And I don't think the spec group have responded publicly to it at this point. So it's kind of sort of stuck, I would say, is the best way to describe it. Let me just put the links to both these GitHub discussions on the chat here. And then this is the first one is for the bootstrap, and the one that I just posted. And the second one is for the, where did this chat didn't go? Yeah. Second one is for the spec. And these two you should be able to take a look at and see how that goes. So this is sum total of what has happened so far. I think uh, the topic that I brought up last time is that from the perspective of the task force, we need to do one of two things. Either we need to take on independent deliverables as priority items and then work our way through those. The challenge I see is that quite a few of us are kind of constrained for time. So taking on independent deliverables means that we'll have to plan out milestones further into the year. The second option is being lockstep with the credential spec and other things being created, and use a very agile format to keep on providing responses, verifying the changes, and keep pushing for the changes that we want to happen. That keeps the group engaged. We actually become productive. We can demonstrate that we are being able to influence good into all these things that's happening in the main group. So I personally would prefer the second, given that we haven't been able to make much headway in the first option. But that's just me. And if the group feels that the first option is better than the second one, we can absolutely try that. But that's what I have. Good grief, that's a lot of silence.
No, so I was just trying to make sure I kind of captured that. So I I favour the second approach as well at this stage, but I also think that there is quite a lot of work there in amongst everything, as well as the work you did. I did some analysis of the work John had done, And oh, Martina, go ahead.
Just briefly with regard to the options, first of all, thanks a lot, Sankar, that you outlined and very, very nicely for me to catch up explained the entire landscape. I'm just a little bit, I'm not sure whether option B for me sounds very reasonable, but it also sounds like limiting ourselves to just the credential scope. So did I miss anything? Or I know there have been several discussions and I haven't been able to attend all of those meetings here. So why just only the credential scope?
Oh, okay. Let me rephrase. First up, no, you didn't miss anything or misunderstand. I think, and in front of us at this point, these two are the issues that are, or GitHub issues or topics that are live that are being discussed. And tomorrow it could be certain other things that come up. The place where I am is trying to trade off uh, original deliverables that come from the task force and contrast it with, can the task force contributions prove to be impactful and useful in the immediate near term? Because there is this very near term and a mid-term of trade-off that we have in front of us. We can absolutely do original content on a longer time scale. Let's say we commit to some deliverables within through discussions through this month of February and decide that we want to publish a white paper. I'm making this up. I'm not saying that we have to publish a white paper. Let's say we have to publish a white paper on a specific topic, and the entire cycle for that we allocate around 90 days to it, which means that we have a deliverable in the coming 90 days. But then from between then and now, are there other near-term things that we could be very engaged in actively and be of some use? And that's where the uh, being engaged with the spec work and all of that came to mind.
Okay, so you, if I understand this correctly, then this would just be like the starting point, because as it seems, the credential working group or task force currently is the most advanced.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
So one of the things that I thought through in the notes is there is quite a lot of work that we've already done in the community, either here or in Sovereign, that are just tools to make use of in building out these specs and discussing the topics. And I don't have much time at the moment. But I know that before the end of March, I will have the time to kind of draw that together in a kind of guidance memo that surfaces some of the items that have come up, both in John's analysis, our discussions, and in the GitHub discussions, and kind of draws them together. I think quite quickly we can bring something together that includes some of these like human orienting tools, like having some persona, like having some scenarios, like the practical guidance piece of the harms paper, and just kind of reflecting back to see if those are useful. But I think it's most useful to support the work of other folks because of the decentralized trust graph and first person is so big, so all encompassing. There are so many little elements of it that we can so easily get lost, and that's what's happened. We've started at the wrong point. We've started with the spreadsheet instead of starting with the kind of scenarios, the situations. And one of the reasons that Scott was feeling it wasn't the best use of his time is that he felt that risks were things that could happen with the technology, and therefore we had to take a very, like, that what the spreadsheet looks like. If I share that with you. Okay, so it's very, it's like an ideal form for a machine to understand, but it's not really an ideal form for us to think through what those potential risks are. And there are human harm stuff in here because that we've put it in here. But a lot of it relates to very technical things, which is still valid, still very important. So I guess against your proposal, mine is that we do both, which I and I'll take it on myself to do the first draft of this as a kind of guidance note and tool set, or a couple of tools that we might find useful. Um, but that we use our time in our calls to go into the GitHub discussions and talk about the stuff together and then document it in the discussions, because it's a kind of forcing function. Maybe it's a personal thing, but it's a forcing function. If I know I've got a call coming up, I'll take the time to look at the GitHub discussions and then think about the stuff, and then we can talk about it through and kind of give a response from the group, as well as in addition to our own responses. What do you think about that?
Yes, I think if we are going down that path, then two things will have to get done. One is obviously you putting together a set of new deliverables or things that we will be doing, and then making the appropriate changes in the published deliverables for this task force as well.
We need to
Because I
make the
think,
changes here. So
yeah,
if we were
because it
to
seems like we
say
are
this
not
one is
doing
on
this.
hold,
Yeah, the metrics is on hold, is what I understand at this point. We are
yeah,
not doing it yet.
and if I change this to a guidance note, I mean, I don't know if that's an official thing.
Yeah, I think you might need to discuss this. Sorry, I see Kevin has his. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, I had to leave at the half hour point, but I had a question. I feel like our group is too small to um, be comprehensive. How do we invite other people in without disrupting the workflow? What do you think? And that doesn't have to be answered today, but I'd like for us to think about that. Because I know some people who hold a community and other people hold individuals. And I just know of people who are really good at identifying risks. And I may need to reorient or orient toward what we consider risk. What do you think?
Well, the more the merrier. Obviously, the more diversity that we get,
Okay.
then the better that
Okay.
is. And it's up to us to welcome people to the group and situate them. What I've done in the past when I was like co-chairing the human experience working group, is set up a little one-to-one with them
Hmm.
as an introductory call to really understand, number one, what they
Yeah.
want to get out of the group, number two, what, their secret special sources, their
Yes.
superpower is. And
Hmm.
then they feel, then it's better, I feel.
Hmm. That feels right, like an onboarding, so that
Yeah,
it's make
it's
sure
just
there's alignment.
because people are giving up their time and
Hmm.
expertise. So it's just a kind of
Hmm.
welcome to the party.
Yeah.
Here's some canapes.
Okay. I'll go with you offline because I've got to go. But yeah, I'll help. 'Cause I don't want that to be a burden for you either. So, but we'll figure it out.
It'd be fine. I love meeting new people.
Okay. Oh, good. All
But
right.
yeah, please,
Thanks,
why
Nikki.
don't we have a little call, Kevin? Because you and I haven't properly met, I don't
Hmm.
think. So that would be wonderful.
Yeah, I would love that.
Let me put my Calendly in the chat and then just find a time
Okay,
that works for you.
great. Yeah, thank you.
And
Okay,
obviously
got it.
that goes for everyone. I'm always willing to take time. Uh, so if I do this set of guidance notes and um, understandings, insights so far, plus useful tools. I mean, we did these persona at Sovereign and they work really well for lots of different groups.
Yes, and I mean, personas and scenarios are probably the easiest things to help other groups understand how they should visualize the topic at
Yeah.
hand and be able to make changes. So anything that is aids other groups in that manner is a good output to target.
Yeah. So and like as I say, there's lots of different bits. They just need kind of drawing together and giving us a kind of structure to think things through. And we'll keep populating the risk register. I think that's still a valid tool. It's just a different approach to populating it. Martina.
I think these are very good approaches. I very much like them. I just would like to mention that in terms of personas, how shall I put that? I'd wish, or I hope, um, what is the process of defining a persona? Because what I experience is that many people, and I don't mean you by that, Nikki, I just want to put it here in the open, based on my experience that I made, that I often had to struggle with defining personas because people often are very, let's say, stereotypish. So it's like the old woman who doesn't know how to deal with tech. Let's put it that way, right? But if you look around, there are many elderly people these days who are actually way more tech savvy than some young people. And so I'm not a big fan of having personas that are very much tied to gender or age, for example. It may make sense in certain situations and for certain um, scenarios or use cases, but I think we should be very careful with um, focusing on these two or adding these two. And there are others kind of attributes in a way to the personas that we're going to create. Or do you have any other, I know, inputs, experiences?
I do have an out of the box 4 hour workshop on how to generate a solid persona, but I'm not going to subject you guys to that. But I have got an approach and a process, and there's a really simple answer in my mind, anyhow, to your question, which is you start with good data and good solid data about a demographic or about a particular challenge and about your target market. Um, and you can use obviously these days AI tools to help you with that. Um, and I've got a template that I use and a couple of options on that. Um, but I agree that the problem with stereotypes is they're stereotypes, but a bit like a framework is, or an analogy, they're sometimes they're quite useful because they're stereotypes, folks recognize them. And so it kind of doesn't matter. The point of a persona is that we're all designing for the same person. We're not designing for ourselves. So if the persona is digitally illiterate and can't use the technology, that's quite a good edge case persona or extreme user, because if it works for them, then it probably worked for everyone else. If your target market is all older people, and then you might need another persona who might not have the age characteristics, but who is digitally literate and very comfortable using technology. So I think what you're talking about is bias in how we select perhaps that data. Say, oh, they're over 75, therefore they must be digitally illiterate. Is that your challenge?
Yeah, it goes in that direction, definitely.
Yeah, so understanding the process and the types of data to draw on. It is kind of the route to, I think, to getting good persona. So is there a question for the working group tomorrow about what else would be useful for them? What do you
Uh,
think? Or do we just
yes,
say this is
but
what you're getting, end of story?
I think there are two parts to this. One is, yes, it is necessary to ask the question, but I also have a hunch that the response could well be a mix of we don't exactly know, but what do you think should happen?
The so what question. We're quite happy in our
Well,
work. We don't need any more
not so
tools.
what, but more in terms of uh, you give the insights rather than seeking what we need. So
Right,
because
okay.
from what I get a sense, the main group and the folks focusing on these specifications, they are heads down at that. They have their milestones in front of them, being able to crank it out and get it out for public review and all of
Mm.
that, right? So let's let's ask the question and then probably offer a few things that task force we can put on the table and see how that is received.
There's and there are a few suggestions in the Harms paper sheet that are probably to do with process as much as anything else. And what would trust over IP call that? Uh, hmm. So it would be a recommendation, or would it just be like a white paper, technically speaking?
I don't remember if Trust over IP has done recommendations previously, but recommendations is a legitimate output type.
We'll leave it as it is and ask for expertise on it. So, just remove that. He'll come back. He doesn't think he will, but he will be back. Okay, let's update that. Go back to our meeting. So we need to think of some suggestions. And then and then so we'll use time to work through. Okay, so that's our guidance notes. So in terms of the harms cheat sheets, I have an awful feeling that it's been taken down from the website. Here we go, practical steps. So some of them were things like ethics training for the team. I think, oh, number one was define the business case, ethics training for your team, vulnerability recognition with various bits and bobs that you could use, including the risk assessment worksheet. Make guardianship credentials available. So these are really design items. Some of them are design items and some of them are process items. here's further guidance on limitation, things like limitation of purpose. So we could kind of use this as a bit of a checklist rather than just giving them the document and work through some stuff focusing on VRCs using this. How does that work for you guys?
Are you saying that we use this as a baseline and kind of lightly tweak it to handle the work that is needed to be proposed to the group?
I think it's something like whenever we are looking at an issue, we can use it more as a checklist, or whether we go through this and identify things that are useful as
Ah,
tools. So, for example, a
I
grievance
see.
management or ADR process, how could that work and still preserve privacy and things like that? I mean, that's essential for harms reduction, is having a right to redress and a means of redress. Functions
Yeah,
within the
yeah. So,
ecosystem.
so this becomes the baseline checklist or the checklist template against which we can provide comments and
Yeah, we
inputs
can
in how we
review.
want to
It's
proceed.
a reminder
Yeah,
sheet for us, kind of
yeah.
thing,
That's
isn't
that's
it?
that's going to be useful. That is good to have.
Okay. So that's so we use this as a checklist. So that's action. And in GitHub discussion, Sankashan, can we like tag it with harms or with RAF so that we can bring all of the stuff together, or would we then have to hunt through every discussion to find the harms bits at the end? I mean, maybe
I
that
think
doesn't matter.
I think you can attach labels, but I believe Drummond or someone else would be able to answer this better.
I think that's enough for the time being. I don't want to fail on expectations again. So, uh, and I think we just we'll start with personas and scenarios and add maybe a checklist. I have been doing some experimentation with Claude to be I call her Tipsy, which stands for trust, identity, privacy, security, and ethics. To be a compliance and security and safety expert so that I can have discussions with them. It's interesting to try and work it that way. But I think if we root it in people and scenarios, that'll help. Well, it will certainly reassure me that we're thinking about people rather than thinking about cool technology. So that'd be good. Any other thoughts? Do we want to take a look at the VRC stuff as we've got a few minutes left? And you can point us at the key bits. I think I did provide some comment on the bootstrapping trust work. Let's have a look.
Yeah, so it's quite the comment that you have on screen is reasonably lengthy. So probably best to take some time later when you have it and go through it and see what can be done. It was just
Okay.
initially intended to get conversations going, but I don't think anything happened much after that.
So this is, how does that match up with your flow, uh, Martina, that you'd put together? Your Miro board flows.
Yeah, I'm working on a new one based on all the information that I synthesized, solicited from new sources, kind of from the workshop that we had 2 weeks ago, and from further discussions. And if everything works good, then we may be able to present it tomorrow. But it also depends. I have to sync with Roman and with you what we all have on the agenda. So maybe it will also be next week. But this specific document is it's the GitHub page for the VRCs, right?
Yeah, it's the GitHub discussion for VRC. So
Yeah, I haven't
I
had the chance to catch up with all the discussions, but the overall, what you see here, like the different credentials and everything that's included.
What I'm thinking looking at this is it's good that these might map quite nicely to a life cycle and to that flow. Some of them are consistent. Okay. I love having things in spreadsheets, so I'm looking forward to analyzing this. This is very comprehensive. What were your conclusions from it, Sankashan? Your key insights from this?
So effectively, if you go all the way up, you'll see that. So the table is really there is this section that says that the table is intentionally not prescriptive. There are four outcomes that I list. So each of these possibly could actually be handled in one of those paths. So these are all that you see in the table are risks, and one of the columns across the risks detail out how the risk can be materialized as in terms of how the risk can be exploited. And if you scroll, so there are more columns to the table. If you there's a scroll bar, yeah, there you go. Exploit label.
So this they call it the kill chain in security, don't they? And fraud. If you can
Yeah.
identify where it's happening, you can kill it.
So effectively, the only thing that I wanted to set up is put all the stuff that I had in a table and then lay it out for a conversation in terms of like how
Yeah.
do you even deal with that risk. And
How do you even
if
begin
that
on
comes
something like
about,
this?
you actually end up getting something of a lightweight risk assessment matrix at that point.
Mm. And so is this the same content as this spreadsheet, or is it slightly different?
Slightly different because it is specifically linked to the VRC. It's very
Cool.
limited to the VRC that you have
Yeah.
spec.
So this is interesting. I think I had begun to try and move it over into this, which is why, and what I've been have been trying to do is where someone's put it in the chat in a call or mentioned it, like some of the stuff that came out of John's stuff when I analyzed it, and put it in as green column, green rows for us to future discuss. So I think there's a bit of shoehorning to be done, but I think, as I said at the beginning of this process, I have worked with this spreadsheet before and it is laborious, but it does work, so I think maybe it was introduced too early in the conversation and it's a background task to kind of update this. Um, so yeah, I just need to assign the time and get the job done. Great. So I've got two clear actions, which is one to change the meeting time and two to try and get a draft together and sort of convert create our checklist and take time in the conversation, get stuck in, basically. I think that's what you're asking us to do, isn't it, Sankshan?
Yep,
Rather
yep.
than having a separate little group. Okay. Any thoughts or questions before we go? Very good. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your amazing work and support, both of you. And as I say, I'll be doing better going forward. Okay. Take care.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Thank you both. Bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye.